I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start, and just thanks to everyone taking time out of your day to listen to our webinar. We're going to talk about building soil health with our Bio 800 Plus products. And we have a couple guests with us today. Advance the slide. Here's the agenda. So this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to do a brief overview of what the products are. And then we just have a number of questions and slides and data with both Mike and Landon. So with that, here we are. So I'll start with the introductions. I'm Dave Stark. I run the ag business for Holganix. I'm actually a scientist by training. My doctorate's in molecular biology. I spent my first career at Monsanto. I did a lot of things from technology to corporate affairs and helping run a couple business units. And in my retirement, hooked up with the founder of Holganix, Barrett Ursick, and really have learned a lot about the importance of soil biology. And what stuns me is how could it have taken me so long in my career to figure this stuff out? So this is a little bit of what we'll talk about. So Mike, how about, or maybe he's on mute again. So Landon, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'll go. Everyone, thanks for taking the time to be on the call today. We've got some awesome information to go over and really excited to answer your all's questions and really dive into it. So I'm Landon Williams. I'm located in Murray, Kentucky, which is the far western part of Kentucky, really close to the Tennessee line. I'm the regional agronomist for our Mid-South division. We've got two kind of separate business units, one in the Midwest up in Iowa and Missouri and Mike's neck of the woods, and then myself down here in the Mid-South. We cover kind of West Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Boot Hill, Missouri, northern Mississippi area. So kind of that Mississippi River Valley. But I've been an agronomist now for quite a few years now. I graduated from Murray State University, where I got a degree in agronomy. And ever since then have had numerous roles, and where I've worked for actually other soil biology companies. And we're definitely going to talk today about how we kind of differentiate ourselves in the marketplace and have some really cool things that kind of you don't really see anywhere else in the marketplace. So really excited to talk with you all and get into it.
Great. So Mike.
Yes.
Yep. So
can you hear me?
Yeah. Introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Mike Batson. I'm an agronomist for Holganix Midwest. I work out of the Iowa location, out of West Point, Iowa. I cover the Missouri, northern part of Missouri, western part of Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and a little bit of Illinois. And I live in north central Missouri and have farmed and been in agronomy work for several years, and excited to be here and want to show what we can do with Holganix. And it's been a great year with Holganix, and we've got a lot to offer.
Great, thanks. So I'll do the quick kickoff in terms of what the product is. So first of all, the soil microbiome is really your engine. All the things on the slide that you see here boosts plant growth and yield, releases nutrients, increases nutrient use efficiency, protects against pests, pathogens, stress, builds soil, on and on and on. These are all things that the soil microbiome does. We're not going to get into the science of all of this. Instead, we're going to talk with Landon and Mike about what they see in the field using the product. Now, being a scientist, these are the kinds of things I do other webinars are, so I will go into the science behind all this. And this is not my science. I go into the university peer-reviewed published journals, and I let you all know, but those are going to be future webinars. So I know I have one with no-till farmer coming up, and there's others as well. There's also some past ones on our website. But in any event, this is the engine that makes the soil work. But what's amazing is, so let's look at good soil versus bad. So on the left-hand column, these are the different microbe types: bacteria, actinomycetes, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, etc. They go from the smallest, the most abundant, the fastest to grow bacteria, and they get larger and slower to grow as you go down the list. So in a gram of soil, by the way, a gram is about the size of an M&M, not a peanut M&M, just the regular chocolate one. That's about a gram. There can be over 1 billion of these things in good soil. So if we look at bacteria, we can get over 2 tons in the top 6 inches of your soil per acre, or 350 pounds, a big range. The big ones, though, look at fungi. Now, fungi are a lot larger than bacteria, so they weigh more. Good soil, over 13,000 pounds per acre. But I think what we're going to hear from Landon and Mike is we're seeing a lot of soil that's at the really low end of that. What this means is the engine's broken because God designed all of these to be in the soil. They're all required to make that engine work. And if they're missing or they're out of balance, the engine isn't working for you. So you're not getting the most out of your soil. So what are the things that break the engine? Lots. Some things we do, tillage, and in different webinars I talk about, biologically what happens when we till soil. Overuse of things like pesticides, fumigants, fertilizer, things we have no control over though, flooding. After a couple days underwater, the oxygen's depleted. We lose a lot of the microbes, freezing, and even what you grow this year and in past years. It's all things that impact the biome. So what does our product do? Our product has representative species, over 800. There's actually a couple thousand species of all those, the bacteria, actinomycetes, fungi, the protists, even beneficial nematodes. The spring product is enriched for the biology that helps with nutrient use efficiency, germination, stand, and really stress resistance. The fall product that we'll talk about is enriched for those fungi that break down organic matter. So they're going to return all the nutrients you've got in your crop residue back to the ground. Application's real simple. We want it in the spring, applied as close to planting as practical. You can mix it with anything but fungicide. It's half a gallon an acre. It doesn't matter if you go in furrow, 2x2, broadcast. I have looked for 8 years for which way is best, and the answer is it really doesn't matter. What does matter is put it down as close to planting as you can. Don't wait until you top dress or side dress, because we lose too much benefit. The breakdown application for residue control is soon after harvest as you can in the fall. That's only a broadcast application, and we want that put down with enough water that we wet it into the residue now. So that's the product. Enough of me talking. So instead, I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Landon to really describe the tools we're using. So here's one thing that Mike and Landon and their teams have done this last year and will continue to do. Customers in their areas that use our product, we go out to the field. We measure soil samples and we show them that the biology is working, because you can't really see it. And I mean, I don't walk around with a microscope. I bet you guys don't either. But we have different tools that we do. This is part of our service. So you're not getting a separate invoice from us. These guys are going out showing you, so we're basically putting our money where our mouth is, that look, if you've got healthy biology, we're repairing your soil engine, you're going to see the benefits. So Mike, why don't you go first and tell us about some of the tools you use? Sure.
Here's a picture of kind of what we use over in the lower left-hand corner. That's a Chrysolab probe. Gives us a geo-referenced soil sample with organic matter, CEC, carbon, and NP and K, and all the major and minor micros. And the biggest thing is it gives us a geo-reference point, so we can come back within a foot of where we're taking that test from throughout the season and in future years. And then the middle picture at the top of the page there is a microbiometer test, and we try to do that there at the field on the back of the tailgate of the pickup. As you can see, sometimes time doesn't permit, but that's what we are hoping to do and try to do. And basically what that does, it gives us a representation of the biology that's in the soil, and it measures the carbon. And we basically use a solvent or a solution mix to break the soil microbes away from the soil particles. And then we can, on an index of 0 to 1800, can index the biology that's going on in the soil. And then we can also tell you the percentage of fungi and bacteria to give you a ratio. And we use that test quite often. And then the Leaf Tech machine over on the right-hand side was new this past year, and it basically gives us a tissue sample, kind of gives us an idea of what's going on inside the plant. And between the three of them there, we kind of see where is a baseline, where we start from, and that gives us the soil, what's going on in the soil, and then we can tell you what kind of biology we've got going on, and benchmark that, and then see correlation between where our product's being used and where it's not as a check, and to see what kind of nutrients we are getting in the plant. And that's kind of what we're doing.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic. And you and Landon go out different times during the year and really show the changes that are happening. Landon, I know that you do use these same tools, and I think, again, the benefit is these are real time in the field with the customer standing next to us. So we're not sending stuff off to the lab. But I know, Landon, you've done some things. We'll talk about your PLFA test. I don't know if you have anything you want to add in terms of the tools that you've used.
Yeah, just to kind of echo what Mike has said, and Dave, is that here in the South, we're also utilizing the same concepts and same tools as the company. So we all want to be on the same page as far as go to a field strategy and offering the kind of the newest technology to customers. I know a lot of, 5-6 years ago, this technology does not exist. And I know there's a lot of crop consultants in our area and here in West Kentucky and West Tennessee that have started to utilize the Crystal Labs probe. So with that's, they're going to make, normal fertilizer recommendations off those probes, that we are purely using that to prove that we're showing more nutrient availability, especially that probe for farmers just to kind of show differences, and also in different kind of measurements as far as organic matter, CNC, and just some other soil parameters to better show the use efficiency of our products.
Okay, great. We're going to, you guys describe the tools. Now let's talk about some of the changes you've seen. Landon, this is your slide, so why don't you tell us what's going on here?
Yeah, so we mentioned those tools, guys, that we used on the agronomy team, some of the handheld tools, but something else that we're wanting to utilize is some really cool soil health parameters and soil health tests. We're working pretty exclusively right now with Region Ag Labs out in Nebraska with Lance Gunderson. He has some really awesome tests, and we've seen some really cool results. So we don't want to necessarily implement these results, these tests on every single acre. We're going to start and do some case studies, some really in-depth pre-application, post-application, in-season testing with some of these soil health tests, and one of those being the PLFA test that's here on the screen. The PLFA is short for phosphofatty lipid acid test, and essentially it shows the biological communities that are going on in your soil. And it's not an instant read, kind of like the Crystal Lab is. It's just, you take a normal soil sample like you would, anything else, 6-inch depth, and send it into the lab in a promptly manner, so we can get the best biological read and kind of keep it in a controlled environment. But on these tests, you can see different levels of biology, and that's including fungi, protozoa, and bacteria communities. Another test that some people may have heard of, there's a bigger soil health test that's out there. And this is essentially kind of a preview to that. This is just kind of a lot more straight to the point soil health test. So on here, on the left-hand side, we had where we applied Holganix. On the right side, we had our control. This product was on a cornfield, so it was sprayed on post-planting when they were still before emergence. So this was a corn that was planted late June in our area, or excuse me, early June, but it was late planting window. So this was sampled about 6 weeks in early August after application there. You can see that we have higher populations of bacteria total fungi and protozoa. In the control, we had no active protozoa present and no total, and a lot smaller amount of fungi and bacteria. So having these ratios is really important when it comes to nutrient cycling and biological life that can help increase nutrient availability for your plant throughout the season. So this is just one of the many soil tests that we're utilizing. And, as a farmer, you don't get to see these tests a whole lot on our normal conventional soil tests. We're trying to think outside the box and provide the most beneficial tests for our farmers and customers.
All right. And then Mike, this is yours.
Okay. Yeah. This is from Iowa, showing post in our process there. This is soybeans where we got Holganix Bio 800 versus a check or a control. And we've also did a bricks test here, showing the sugar content in the plant, and where the Bio 800 is, you can see that more bricks levels there at 5.5 versus the check at 4.0. And that helps suppress and basically help against pests, biting and sucking insects. And the higher the brick score, the less bug activity you'll see in your plants. And then also there we've got where we ran the biometer and got there's more biology there at 207 versus the 95, more carbon there. And then on the fungi, you can see we've increased it from 8% to 28% and lowered the bacteria down from 92% to 72%. So we're working towards more of a 1-to-1 ratio. That's kind of our goal. And this is showing what we've done versus the check with our product there.
Yeah. So generally speaking, and I've talked to you guys through the year, what do you typically see in a guy's field in terms of the fungal, the bacteria ratio, the overall microbial biomass, carbon, et cetera?
Sure. Well, kind of what we're seeing more regularly when we start off is more bacteria dominant soils, anywhere from 70 to 90% bacteria usually, and less fungi, of course. And like I said, we're needing more of a balanced approach there on those two. And normally, when we increase that fungi level, we're bringing some protus back into the mix.
Okay, good. So we're going to move on to the next topic because we got a lot to cover. Next is what changes in fertilizer rates and nutrient release have you noticed? And again, there's science on this side I'm not going to get into. So Mike, I don't know if this is from you. I know that this is from a Crystal Labs probe, and we're just showing the difference in the nutrient release. I don't know if you have anything more to add on this.
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of similar to what we're seeing pretty much everywhere. We're getting more nitrogen and more potassium and the micros. And you can see the organic matter's moving up as well. And we're changing the CECs as we go. We're seeing that with guys 2 and 3 years in the program, also moving their organic matter up more than that. So, for every percentage point increase in organic matter, you're 26,000 gallons of extra water holding capacity there.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that, we really, when we talk about the science, your soil will work better if we don't over apply NP and K, especially nitrogen and phosphorus. But we understand you want to see evidence that the biology is working for you, that it's releasing what you have locked up so that you can sleep at night when you back off your fertilizer inputs. So that's part of the point of this, is just to show when your soil engine is working, it really, really is going to start, taking what you've already spent money on in past years and putting it to work for you. Here's another one. This is a soil test and such. So this is, Mike, I guess yours as well. Actually, this looks like a pretty good control. I mean, this is pretty good ground that you
that definitely has some good biology in the soil to start with. And you can see, basically, even with that being at a high level, that we're still moving it up where we've got the Bio 800, and we are moving more fungi into the soil profile there as well. And, showing against the soil test on the right side as well, increasing nutrients and the bulk density. We're wanting a lower number there and open up the porosity in the soil and working against compaction. We're helping that to loosen up the soil as well. And of course, that on this one, where the check was at 266 bushel corn, that's pretty darn good. But you can tell where we had the Bio 800, we had an 8 bushel yield advantage, and that's in real good soil.
Yeah, so even in good soil, we're seeing a benefit. This is one that's from South Dakota, so I'll go over this one real quick. We can go back and look at satellite imaging on the same piece of ground for a number of years. So this is southeast South Dakota. This is NDVI imaging. You can see, of course, the darker green, the better. Red is bad. 2019 was the first year that this person put Holganix on his farm. That purple in the lower left corner on all these is his house, so that's his yard and such. And then 2020, I mean, you can just look at the difference. 21 and 22, by the way, were severe drought years. Both years, I remember speaking with him in early July. He said, "Dave, I'm just not going to get a crop." And both years in October, he's like, "I don't know where this crop came from." We really want the 2023 image. It's not available yet. He had moisture, and he actually won the Group 2 dryland soybean yield contest for the state of South Dakota, almost 83 bushels. So again, slowly increasing and improving the quality of the land. This is another study that we did. This is third-party data, where again, the biology is a tool to help you dial in the right fertilizer levels. We want you to reduce, but how much, there's no formula. I mean, really, your ground. And on this plate case, you can see anywhere from 5 to 20% fertilizer reduction, the impact on yield, and it's just a matter of where it pencils out the best, based on the price of fertilizer and the price of corn. So Landon, I don't know if you have anything to add in terms of what you've seen in nutrient release or fertilizer in your area.
Yeah, so as far as on the fertility side of things and nutrient release, that's something where a lot of guys are also looking toward our fall applied product, our breakdown, to help release nutrients, to get some of the residue broken down later in the fall, early winter, and help kind of prime the ground for next spring. We've got some of our recommendations. We work hand in hand with every customer and trying to look at their fertility program. In so many cases that we run through nowadays, over fertilizing is really a big problem right now, and it's continue to do so. And a lot of university recommendations say, for example, 1 to 1.2 units of nitrogen per bushel of corn, and that's something we're looking at it and looking at. We can start looking at lowering those fertility rates with the use of Holganix, and that we can help start working the biology for us. And some of the tests that Mike and I have taken, we've taken some, it's called like TND tests, also from Region Ag Labs, or total nutrient digestion tests. And those tests show how much fertility is actually in your soil. It's kind of in a savings account. It's just locked up, and there's thousands of pounds, hundreds and thousands of pounds. It's unreal. I mean, there could be 900 pounds of potassium that's sitting in your soil, but guys are still applying fall applied potash, and it's just we see terrible utilization of our synthetic fertilizers, and starting to become more aware of that. And so really want to start looking at backing off in some of this fertility and using our biology to start working for us and have us a bigger ROI at the end of the season.
Yep, thanks. Okay. So now we're going to look at soil structure and other things related to it. And there's some really neat stories here of what you guys have seen. So, I'm just going to, Mike, this is from your area, but I'm just going to say that I remember talking with you, it must have been last June, And you said that you're going out with the Crystal Labs probe, which is what, 3/4 of an inch around, something like that. So you would use a drill to make the hole big enough and deep enough. But you noticed in the ground that had been treated with Holganix, the probe went right in, but it wouldn't in the check strips. And so we had, you know, a lot of interns. I think there were 15 going across 44 different farms, and this is the data they found on bulk density and water infiltration. So, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a pretty significant study they did. Spent all summer working on it, and we've got a lot of interesting data that came out of that, as you can see on the water infiltration testing that they did throughout the season. And they did it on corn and beans both. And the one thing that I thought was they also checked besides this is the root mass. And basically on the beans, they saw 13% more larger root mass on soybeans and 40% more on corn, and pretty significant on that, as well as larger plants, 7% larger plants in the corn study, and 20% more in the soybeans.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I can tell you scientifically, this makes total sense, because if you start with ground that's really low in fungi, it's fungi mostly that produces the glue that glues soil particles together. So as the fungi and the roots are growing throughout the soil, we're getting more and more soil glued together, and we're making those stable macro aggregates, which opens up the ground. And so this is actually perfect in terms of mapping fungal and root growth. Landon, I don't have a slide, but I know that Caleb has had some people talk to him about how his soil has changed. And why don't you let us know what you've seen?
Yeah, so a couple of things that we noticed specifically on Caleb, who's kind of our dealer and mentor down here in the South and in West Tennessee. He had a guy from the local co-op that he sets all the wheat drills in the fall, and he comes around. He set over I think 40 drills this fall, from different customers in the area. And he set Caleb's and was driving through the field, and he was going through the corn stalks. We had applied a breakdown. He goes, "Man, this is some of the mellowest dirt in West Tennessee." It was unreal just how the drill was going through the ground. And another example is a good friend of mine, a good customer of ours in West Kentucky. He's a canola. He has some canola and rapeseed has started to come on board. We've had some grain buyers that have started to want to get some acres. So I think there's going to be over 50,000 acres of canola or rapeseed in West Kentucky this upcoming year. And this customer of ours, he has about 500-600 acres of it, and he applied breakdown on his residue because he's actually going to do no-till rapeseed, and that's very uncommon for the area. I know, especially it's more common to raise that crop up north, and you really, in a lot of cases, want to create a good seed bed and really till up the ground to make sure you have really good emergence, because it can it's such a small seed that has a tough time poking through the ground. And this customer of ours, him and his family have been no-till for over 30 years and have introduced cover crops in the last 5-10 years, doing a lot of annual ryegrass, URI, and some mixed cover crops. But they wanted to do something to kind of push the limits and push the envelope, and so they applied some breakdown in the fall. And 2 weeks later, no-till planted his canola into those corn stalks, and he was like, "Man, it's planting like butter." I mean, he said it was night and day difference. Just some of his visual representation and just physically being in the cap. So he gets to make a difference, and that's some of those testimonies that we're hearing. It's very common that we're getting those that information in as we go throughout the season.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, one thing I'd add too, Dave, on that, we had a customer in central Missouri that had used the spring product and put fall breakdown on, and was doing some inline ripping and chisel plowing basically, but in an inline ripper, and was getting 10% where the product had been versus the check. He was getting 15 to 20% better diesel fuel utilization with his tractor. So it was less drag on the chisel plow.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's great. So we'll talk about now plant health and disease and performance, et cetera. Mike, tell us about this.
Okay. Yeah, this is 2 fields in southeast Iowa. Same hybrid on both sides of the blacktop highway there. Same farmer, same fertility program used. One side is corn on corn and the other side is corn after beans. But the picture tells a different story than what actually you would think. The field on the right is the corn after corn, and the one on the left is corn after beans. And basically what we're seeing there, neither field has had a fungicide treatment either. And basically we are drying down normally on the right side, and we're dying down, maturing more abruptly on the left side of the road. And on that was about a 7 bushel yield increase on the right side versus the other side. And that was corn after corn. The only difference in these was Bio 800 was applied.
Yeah, that's incredible. This is a picture now. This is Western Nebraska. This is a guy we work with out there that he sent in. Of course, really dry. He's almost on the Colorado border. I think the picture says it all. And again, when I talk about the science in upcoming webinars, we'll talk about how it's fungi in particular that protect plants against abiotic stress like drought. So Landon, this is from your area.
Yeah, so this is a soybean field that we had on one of our farms in West Tennessee. As you can know, it's a planting day. This was planted March 30th, and it was taken just 14 days after planting. The Bio 800 Ag Spring was applied in furrow there at planting, and even in the South we have really cool springs, especially you get late March. But there's been so many studies done recently where it's kind of the new hip thing to plant beans early. Historically in the South, we've always planted corn first in middle of April, and then planted our beans mid-May, early June, and that's been kind of the normal order of operations. But a lot of farmers have been moving to the early planted soybeans. There's been a lot of research, so that seems to be a common thread. So even some of the earlier planted beans, you can just see the early vigor that was happening from the Holganix. And so we're really excited to see this, and it's just helping to protect the plant more and help it be more viable in those early times for guys that are wanting to get those early emergence and early stains of beans before the corn. So we've just seen some really great success even with these early planted beans.
Yeah, and really dramatic rooting effect there in that cold, wet condition.
Yeah, there's just so much stability that's happening there, Mike. You just don't see this in a lot of cases, and we've just seen tremendous results. Those first couple of weeks after planting, and that's why we think it's really crucial to incorporate the spring product in furrow or close to as planting as we possibly can to get a wonderful stand. That's what's going to help determine yield for the rest throughout the growing season.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the picture that really tells me why I recommend to people, if you can't put liquid down with the planter and it's a matter of doing a pre-emergent or a post-emergent, I'd rather you do a pre, as long as it's not on bare ground. Is there something for the microbes to eat, residue or whatever, because we really don't want you to miss this window of where the bugs are helping. All right, well, Landon, this is another one.
Yes, this is another just kind of some of that early vigor and root structure that we see on corn. We've seen some really great success as well. Applying it in furrow with corn. Once again, that half-gallon rate planted on April 15th. This is 14th. This is a lot normal window. Kind of the early V4 to V6 stages of corn. Where we're just seeing that early root development. It just really gets out of the ground really strong. And like I said, it says no fertilizers were applied in this trial. So we really knocked back on the results there. And our whole farm average, and we had over 2,000 acres of corn this year on the farm, and we saw over 11 bushel return on our corn ground. So that was really exceptional, and we've just seen some awesome success even on our corn ground.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Mike, this is one from your area, and this is, I think, the point was, improving the soil is a journey. So it's not a sprint. It's something that will get better every year. And this is a field that has had the product applied several times.
Yes. Yeah. It's had 2 spring treatments and 1 fall treatment versus the control there. And you can see, the plant stage is probably one stage at least, maybe 2 stages ahead of the other crop over there. And the rooting effect, and you're getting more branching as well on the Holganix side.
Yeah, that's a nice picture. I almost think that we should move on because we're running out of time. So,
Sure.
Okay, let's get to this yield. So it's toward the end because, again, we are promoting soil health. And soil health does so many things for you. What should come along, though, of course, is yield, and you all want to know that. So, Mike, this is, what Heartland Co-op did across Iowa.
Yes. Yeah. You can see there's some beans there at the bottom, three overall for Iowa there at 9 bushel on that showing there. And there's one location, I think Otoe County and Nebraska there, and the rest of those are in Iowa. And had good results. I think that study was almost somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 acres of crop ground, where those interns worked basically all summer on those farms doing root digs and water infiltration rate, root ball, root mass studies, overall plant growth and biomass, and then of course correlating it to yield.
Yep, that's great. It's another one on beans. I've got a cotton picture in here coming up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know if you had anything you want to add to this picture.
Yeah, the big thing is that's first year application at the normal rate, half gallon rate, and a 7 bushel yield increase in that situation.
Yeah, that's nice. Oh yeah, we like this because this is literally a note from a grower.
Yeah, and basically he had cut his NP and K, as you can see there, and total nitrogen, 160 pounds of actual N applied in the fall, and had 2 tests with checks on both, and you can see the difference, almost 20 bushels, 19.9 and 19.54 on the other. And yeah, that came from the farmer, and you can also tell by the test weight, the one side was a little higher than the other side, but overall more yield was put in the grain tank.
Yeah, and with spending less money up front.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. More than paid for the product up front, and basically put it into the yield. So it's a double win.
And that's what we want to see.
Yes.
The microbes actually work better when we make the plant a little bit hungry, because then they'll feed the microbes and the microbes will feed the plant. So Landon, this is yours is cotton, something a little bit different.
Yeah, so for guys in our southern geography, this should definitely open your eyes to what we've seen throughout the season. So we've got 2 separate trials here. The trial here on the left was standard populations and standard row spacings, and on the right-hand side trial is board. Well, obviously there's a lot more bowls here. So this was actually on a skip row trial. So we had 60-inch cotton, so that's very uncommon. It's starting to become a more unique practice, but for a long time it's been pretty uncommon. But this is 60-inch row spacing, so the cotton plant had a lot more room to grow and get bigger. So that's just why you're seeing more total volume of bowls on this side of the screen. But on both sides, you can see in our Holganix sides, we just saw we saw 1 larger bowl. 2, just the maturation of the cotton, it's a little bit ahead from everything else. And we also noticed that there was less aborted bowls in the field. So that's really important. A lot. The cotton plant tends to want to abort bowls to get later in the season. So especially if it's lacking nutrients, if it's lacking something that it needs, it's going to want to abort that fruit. So it had the biology there. It had the nutrients there to be able to help get it through the growing season, and saw really great success. And so on the left-hand side, we had about a 50-pound increase, and on the right-hand side, about a 70-pound increase. So if you just think of a 50-pound increase on cotton, putting that dollars to numbers, I think the cotton market right now is about 80 cents a pound. So 80 cents at 50 pounds. I mean, you're looking at a $40 return on your of gross total and over a 2x return on your investment with applying our product. So this is really hitting home with the cotton guys. We've had a lot, just pretty much all of our cotton customers have already re-upped their orders and doing more for next year. So, and we've actually got a honor tonight. Holganix Midwest is hosting a webinar, and one of our cotton customers is going to be on that webinar. So definitely something for y'all we can talk about more later, but for y'all to tune in as well on Facebook later on to hear more about that.
Yeah, that's great. I don't want to hammer home, but if you go to our website, Holganix.com, there's a lot of third-party research data. This is, example from Western Missouri. So I don't need to hit that home, but there's a lot of data on our website. Here's one, Landon, that kind of bridges between this discussion and the breakdown product. But here you're talking about yield, but it kind of hits both.
That's right. And so traditionally, Dave, we talk about our breakdown product, and we normally say that's for a fall use to apply, on our residue to help get nutrient cycling into the fall. But this customer in particular uses the summertime. So in the South, we have the awesome advantage of a double crop situation. And so the customer grew wheat through the spring, and he harvested his wheat late June, and then he applied our breakdown product on the wheat straw. So on all that wheat stubble to help plantability, he sprayed it on the wheat straw and then planted into it about 2 weeks after that. So here's a picture of just growing beans. This is middle of July. See these beans coming up out of the ground, and here on the you can see it like night and day on the left hand side. You can see where Holganix was on the right hand side where it wasn't, and that was did not have the spring product that had our breakdown product applied there in the double crop situation. We saw an 8 bushel difference, and one of our reps was out in the field with this customer, and he said, before any kind of maps, nothing, he just walked him out to the field. The farmer walked our rep out to the field and just said, "Show me where you think it's applied." And he walked right, he could see it, he could walk right to the line with his own eyes and like, this is where it's at. So this was the most prolific example that we saw here in the South this year, and was just another great opportunity to apply our products after wheat into a double crop bean situation.
Yeah, that's great. So Mike, this is from your neck of the woods.
But basically, that's a cornfield there in southeast Iowa. Combine ran, and they were out there spraying just almost immediately after combine ran to give it plenty of time for some temperature and to gather a little bit of moisture. And you can basically read what the grower stated there. And then they ran a vertical till through that on both of them 3 weeks after it was applied. And, the one on top where the control is, that's going to take some more tillage unless they're planning on no-tilling soybeans in that. But if a guy's in corn on corn, you can see the bottom one there after running that vertical till through it. By the time the spring comes in there, a guy would be able to run in that in no-till corn into that. He'd have good soil seed contact there, and it'll warm up a little quicker as well.
Yep, no, that picture says it all. So Landon, this is down in your area. I think these are great pictures. So tell us what's going on.
Absolutely. So this is once again, right, 2 to 4 weeks right after harvest is when breakdown was applied on these corn stalks that we dug out here in the early winter back in December. Just the fun just going to work. You can see how the stalks are turning black and becoming easier to break down. That's literally what we want to see to help to really break down that residue. And there has been some fears and concerns, especially from the no-till guys, cover crop guys, that say, I want my residue, especially for the cover crop guys. It's like I want 6 foot tall cereal rye, next season, so it can keep weed suppression, and we completely understand it. It's not going to just eviscerate your cover crop or eviscerate all your residue that you have on the soil surface. It's just going to make it easier to, one, plant into, but two, to help cycle those nutrients over time. It's just, if breakdown was not applied, it would take so much longer. How many times, especially in a no-till situation, do we go out into a cornfield and we see corn stalks from 2 or even 4 seasons ago? There's still that residue just still laying on the surface, and there's just not any biological activity to break down those residues. And for you as a farmer and producer to take advantage of that investment. So we've just seen some really great results. And me personally, as an agronomist in our neck of the woods, I'm more excited even about the breakdown than the spring product, just because of what this can do, especially for so many of our no-till customers.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, we're nearing the end. I'm going to finish the slides, but if anyone has questions, you should be able to enter the questions there on the website. And here in a minute, I'll look at those and we'll start going through them. Oh, look at that. It is open Q&A. Any questions that might have, people go ahead and send them on in. I've got one here. The product is refrigerated when we make it. Is that a problem for a guy when he's trying to, use it on his farm? Because of course, the farmer doesn't have refrigeration to put totes in. So what have you guys seen in terms of the refrigeration issue?
I haven't seen any issues with that. Normally we say 6 to 8 weeks after we deliver it to the farm, as long as there's a protective cover that is shrink wrapped on the tote itself to stop UV light from getting in there, and it also keeps the product cooler longer. So I've actually seen the product stay in condition as much as 10 weeks, as long as it's kept out of the sunlight. That doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time, but I haven't seen any issues with that. And
on that, we've got a lot of guys that don't have a ton of storage. Like I said, they don't have, I don't know, a single farmer that has the refrigeration on the farm. And so as long as it's, in some kind of shop or in kind of the overhang to where it's out of the sunlight, like Mike mentioned, especially in the South, we have a lot more unbearable temperatures, especially as you get later into the summertime. And so as long as you're just kind of keeping out of the weather, not in direct sunlight, we've seen great success. And on the flip side of that, farmers say, well, if it has to be in refrigeration, well, all of the biology is going to burn up when it gets applied on the bare dirt. And that's not the case. The biology goes to work, and it's Mike and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kept refrigerated so that the biology doesn't start to activate. So once it gets out there on the ground and has food source, ample amount of food source, and kind of helps with that, it starts the symbiotic relationship with the root exudates and getting out there, it'll start working and get to it. So there's not a big concern of it there's not a concern at all of it just burning up and killing the biology on contact coming out of the sprayer or in the seed trench.
Right, and we refrigerate because unlike really everything else out there, ours are living microbes, and we keep them alive by keeping them cold. So they're kind of in just a really slow growing state. Some of the fungi even will slowly grow in refrigeration. You can tell if a product is actually living or if it's a spore, which means it has to germinate and get going. Spores you can powder, spores you can put tightly sealed in a jug on the shelf, but you really can't do with the live biology that we need to keep them cold. I'd have a question here. Do we have side-by-side field trials of our product with BW Fusion? I do. I don't like talking about competitive products other than what they contain. And then when we give you the information, you can decide what works. So BW Fusion, of course, they sell a lot of different products, different fertilizers and such. Their microbes are about 24 bacteria, and the only fungus is yeast. And yeast is not what we're talking about here. Yeast is fine in the soil, but yeast are not what glue soil particles together. They don't produce the white feathery hyphae or the black material that breaks down corn stalks. That's all the fungi that produce hyphae and mycelia. So it's the same couple dozen bacteria strains, and ours is much more diverse. So does BW Fusion have microbes that can specifically handle certain issues like solubilizing phosphorus? I could see that, but it's not our product. We're very, very different. Okay, I got one it's just a comment. I appreciate the trial results. As far as yield, I proved that on my farm with replicated trials in 19 and 21. but this new info is very much appreciated. Well, I just say thank you for being a customer. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad that you did your own trials and you saw some good results. Here, I got some more questions. Can the use of your product help the farmer gain measurable and verifiable carbon credits? What impact on greenhouse gas and nitrite emissions, N2O? We are working on this because I can tell you again scientifically, the number one thing that puts carbon into your ground are roots. Also, microbial biomass holds a lot of carbon in the ground. So what we need to do is convince the different agencies that are paying you to put carbon in the ground to look at our product and say, yes, this is working. So we're generating the data. Some of the products out there that people are getting paid to use for carbon blow my mind. Like, seriously? We really do. And again, there's a lot of science around its roots that build that carbon in the soil. So we're working on it, and you guys do this every day. And if the world is going to pay you to sequester carbon, we want to help you do it. You know, God bless you for it. So we're working on it. Next question, what about the carbon to nitrogen ratios? That is, when we build carbon content, the nitrogen doesn't automatically track. Is there a point in which the carbon concentrations in soil is too high? If so, what's the limit? So if you listen to my other webinars, I talk about CN ratios a lot. And what will happen is if you get too little nitrogen, for example, you know, I'm going to ask Mike and Landon here in a second what they've seen is residue like corn stalks and wheat straw are very, very carbon rich, very little nitrogen. So when microbes try to break it down, especially bacteria, which are notorious for tying up nitrogen because they need so much of it, you can actually get yellow corn. The nitrogen's out there, it's just tied up. So Mike, Landon, I don't know if you've seen any of that, but it's a really important concept that, which is why you want the protists and the fungi. Their nitrogen requirement is much, much lower than bacteria, so we keep things cycling. But I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add there.
No, I would agree with you, Dave. It's good to have a balanced soil to keep everything percolating along, and I would agree with what you said on the carbon there.
And I would, my input, 2 cents, would I look at it similar to a cover crop situation. You know, you look at things like, 6 foot tall cereal rye has a lot different carbon nitrogen ratio than a 2 foot tall or 1 foot tall legume crop, with crimson clover. And so that's just kind of a similar example of, you want more diversity. You don't want just one single crop up there that's going to obviously make your CN ratio go one way or the other. So having the diverse biology and creating a more well-balanced ecosystem overall is going to help you in the long run. I know that's not a direct answer to the question, but it's kind of a similar comparison.
Yep. Thanks. I've got another question. Can the product be delivered by seed treatment? I don't recommend it. So we have a pound of molasses in every gallon, and it just does not dry well. Plus, some of the microbes, especially the protists and some of the fungi, just don't have the same level of viability when we dry them down. So you actually will narrow the biology if you do it on a seed treatment. So we like to think of ourselves as a seed treatment that you just apply as a liquid in the row or over the top. I've got a lot of guys that have tried using this as a seed treatment once. They don't do it again. So I just don't recommend it. Here's one on the yield comparison slide that we got out of Iowa from Heartland Co-op. What was the application rate? It was all half a gallon an acre, at planting or close to it. Another grower comment here, and thank you, another customer. In 2023, I have noticed improvements after 2 years on all my land. And last year was the best yields ever in a drier May and June and up to July 15th. Well, thank you. And again, you guys saw the pictures that of that early difference in the root mass, and the quicker you get the feed under the crop, just the better it's going to be able to withstand whatever stress is going to come at it. So I think we are nearing the end of our time. So if you have more questions, go ahead and submit them, because we'll answer them. We'll just do it via email to you. If you want to call, let us know. I'm happy to do that. So again, you can go to the holganix.com and do the contact us, and we'll get in touch with you. We have a couple different webinars coming up, panelists again with different people that are customers and farmers. And again, I have some educational webinars I'm doing in the next 2 months as well. And again, a lot of recorded on our website if you really want to get into the science. So again, thank you all for hanging with us on this. Again, the message is your soil biology really enables so much. It's not a standalone solution. The other things that you do on your farm for good soil management and soil health are all important. But having the biology there really, really does make a difference. So with that, I want to thank you. And Mike and Landon, thanks for taking the time. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts you've got. Otherwise, we'll just wrap it up.
I would just say, guys, if you haven't tried our product, I think you'd be real pleased with trying some, and we can, do some testing to help you kind of find out where you're at as a beginning level. And for those guys that are using our product, we thank you and appreciate your business.
Yeah, just to kind of close out there on the Mid-South side, we once again appreciate your all's business, and we are fast growing. And I would just encourage everyone to, if they have any questions, do some homework, do some digging on the website. There's so many companies out there, and we've got a really cool, in some of our other presentations, we've got an awesome slide of just kind of this massive Venn diagram of all the companies that say that they're a soil health company or a biology company. And so Holganix is kind of in the center and trifecta of all of those different areas of biology. And so we just really recommend that if you have questions or any kind of doubts, concerns, just kind of do the homework and see what's actually in your products you're applying. And once again, just reach out to any of your local reps, and we're more than happy to help and assist with any kind of questions y'all may have. And once again, we just thank y'all for the business, and we really look forward to working with y'all in the growing season.
Thanks, everyone. I see there are more questions, but we'll get back with you on some of these because they're good. But I've taken an hour of your time, and I don't want to abuse your generosity. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.